but people are spending less. Mm-mm. How do we make travel more and spend more? Mm-mm.
Well, first of all, Madam Chair, we're very encouraged by the fact that Filipinos continue to show their love for our country by traveling at a rate of 134 domestic trips in 2024. And the tourism spending generated, standing at 3.1 trillion, has continued to ensure that tourism is a stabilizing force in very uncertain times. That being said, we understand that there are concerns in terms of pricing, perhaps, especially as far as airline tickets are concerned. And we do continue to work with our other tourism stakeholders, ranging from resorts, accommodations, retail, dining, and the like, in order to ensure the competitiveness of their pricing.
Let's not rely on air travel alone domestically. It would be interesting to do long land trips and then go through the ports, Roro, as long as it's safe and clean, right? Safe and clean. Efficient, safe, and clean. Yeah.
We completely agree with you, Madam Chair.
And you could compute it. Is it as expensive? No, it's not going to be as expensive as air travel. Yeah. And then they stop along the way.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Even the small areas which are not the usual destinations can also be promoted.
Yes, Madam Chair. We fully encourage sea travel as well as land travel as alternative modes of travel. And in fact, we recently engaged in a joint promotion initiative with To Go Travel, which has launched their own domestic cruise tourism program, where you can stay in a very well-appointed vessel as you travel overnight across our islands.
We proceed to tourism share in GDP. It remains, as you mentioned, 8.9%. We have not fully recovered from 2019, no? Of 12.9% share in GDP, despite higher levels of our expenditure, and there are many reasons for this. So the reasons would be, but we're talking now of both inbound and domestic tourism, right? So what else can we do? You already mentioned to make the airfares lower priced, to promote us better abroad for inbound travels, to promote more land-based travel or island to island using other forms aside from air. How else can we improve tourism share in GDP, both from inbound and domestic tourism?
First of all, Madam Chair, to be very forthright, I actually expressed my concerns to the Philippine Statistics Authority because it seems that their attribution of the share of tourism to the GDP is solely based on the tourism direct gross value added, without taking into consideration in its entirety the internal tourism spending, which is the composite of the international and domestic tourism receipts. They explained that the TDGVA is the gross value added generated by tourism industries and other industries of the economy that directly serve visitors in response to internal consumption. Not quite sure what that means, but for us, it's very important to take a look at the ability of tourism to bring in revenues for our local small and medium enterprises, and the ability of tourism to employ communities and Filipinos. And these should be taken into account when computing the total contribution of GDP to the economy. That being said, we fully encourage the Filipinization of our tourism destinations, which means that we encourage local sourcing of materials, from construction to gastronomy to regular supplies of our hotels, resorts, and accommodations in order to lessen the dependency of the tourism industry on imported products and to increase the valuation of the internal consumption.
Maybe you should see this. Did this come from LBRMO or from DOT? Mismong sa inyo nang galing, oo. We're back to our 2014 level, no? Yung ating TDGVA. Yes. Our tourism direct gross value. Because we already increased, we were increasing from 2014 to 2019. Then the pandemic happened. I guess it takes time for us to do a rebound. You're back to the 2014 level. So let's see how we can recover faster because we were at 12.9% based on the TDGVA.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may be allowed to read and quote the interpretation of these numbers so that I can qualify that the TDGVA,
Tourism direct gross value added. Yan. So that we
the tourism direct gross value added, does not paint the complete picture of the performance of the tourism industry as far as our mandate is concerned. So it says here that while internal tourism expenditures reflect total spending of 3.86 trillion, the TDGVA represents only the direct value-added portion. The relationship between tourism spending and TDGVA is not one-to-one. Spending may be high, but if much of it flows to low-margin or imported goods or occurs in sectors with lower value-added per peso spent, such as informal tourism services, the TDGVA contribution remains modest. Goods or services, as well as leakages to informal or unregistered sectors, do not contribute to the TDGVA computation. Therefore, even if spending was high, its translation into TDGVA is bounded by supply-side capacity and value-added structure. Meanwhile, other sectors, especially those with high formalization and industrial capacity like retail, real estate, and manufacturing, captured larger and faster growing shares of GDP in 2024. The 8.9% TDGVA share is not a sign of underperformance but a reflection of competitive sectoral dynamics and a fast expanding economy. Moving forward, efforts to increase tourism's GDP share, therefore, must focus on aspects such as continuing to raise value-added per peso spent or promoting high-yield tourism, which is what we're doing, reducing leakage by strengthening domestic supply chains and formalization, and enhancing linkages between tourism and high-growth sectors.
You're aware of that and you're doing something about it, and then you've explained how the numbers don't reflect it accurately. But thank you for that information. Now, I will not ask you anymore about air arrivals because we already talked about the expensive rates and international visitors, etc. We go to the strong concentration in your markets. Is it South Korea and the US? They both account for 43% of arrivals, at least last year, and 41% this year so far. So how could we perhaps get back? When was it when Japan was a major market for the Philippines, and why did we lose the Japan market? Because now they are 8.8% as of 2025, China 4.6, Taiwan 3.6, but we have the US and South Korea. So how are we able, did we lose Japan? And what was the reason why we lost Japan? What percentage and what year did we have a strong Japanese market? And what is the inbound market or arrivals that we actually want, who actually spend the most? and behave the most. Para hindi mga indikato. Yeah.
Madam Chair, to clarify, we have not lost the Japan market. And in fact,
The 8.8% in 2025 was really the percentage of past years, because told by the private sector, those who always come to me and complain, and sometimes there's basis, sayang nawala ang Japan market. So I want it on record. Did we actually lose Japan? When was the highest percentage? What year? And what were we doing in tourism then? Or maybe we had better news about the Philippines then. Again, I state that it's beyond the DOT. No? Ito.
Madam Chair,
Yes, thank you.
may I continue, Madam Chair? Yes. The Japanese market accounted for 8.16% of the international arrivals of the country in 2024 at over 444,000 visitors. Comparative to 2019, Japan had an 8.28% share, with arrivals amounting to 684%. If you will allow, I'd like to cede the floor to Undersecretary Verna Buensuceso, who can give us a historical background of the Japanese market.
Pegged at 8%. So if we did not lose it, how can we gain more from the Japanese market, considering the proximity? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's Yusek Buensuceso. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Madam Chair. In relation to the Japan market, actually, as mentioned by the Secretary earlier, if you take a look at this market this year, this is one of the growth markets that we're looking at to sort of fill in the shortfall, for example, of Korea and China. And if you take a look at the figures at the moment, we're already growing by 16.7%. So this is a very good recovery rate. To be able to induce the market further, the Tourism Promotions Board is also executing a number of joint promotional activities that will be done in the course of the next few months for us to be able to further accelerate the growth of the Japanese market, Madam Chair.
There's no deceleration of the Japanese market. So I was misinformed by the private sector practitioners.
There is no deceleration.
There's never been higher than 8%.
Yes, right.
Yes.
10%, but right now
Yes.
we're
We're only
16.7%.
Okay, so that's clear, but there's of course potential for engaging more or inviting the Japanese market more. What other markets are we attracting? Well, it says here, South Korea, US, Japan. Okay, Australia, 5% lang. Canada, malayo, pero then China. Taiwan is only 3%, 3.5. Yes. What are we doing to attract more of these top 20 in international visitor arrivals? Again, the branding and promotions, right? Okay, Yusek, proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, in relation to our top performing markets, these are actually handled by the Tourism Promotions Board. And right now, for us to be able to accelerate and increase demand for our products and project and our destinations in the Philippines, we're looking now at doing joint promotional activities. So we work with airlines, for example. We work with tour operators. We work with online travel agencies for us to be able to develop packages, competitive packages, special promotions that will drive now demand for the Philippines and the various destinations. So this is one of the ways that we are doing to make sure that we will also have some sort of conversion into warm bodies.
How would you differentiate the promotions you do for DOT and the TPB? Yes, please explain our COO.
Hello, Madam Chair.
Barbara
Good
Morales.
afternoon. Yes, so to share quickly, the Tourism Promotions Board is the marketing arm of the Philippine Department of Tourism in charge of our 13 key markets around the world